move the rug. We gotta get that door shut. Y'all set?
Yeah, it would be a very, very easy fix.
Yeah, just shim the door.
Well, that or just put a lock up in the frame so you can move down.
Right?
Use one of the doors.
Afternoon, evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to tonight's City Council meeting for July 10th, 2024. We have 6 out of 7 councilors present, so we have a quorum, and I'll start the agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the first item of business tonight is the public hearing section, and on our agenda, we have 3 of those public hearings to discuss. We'll take them separately, and we'll ask the city manager to introduce the first topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the first topic is for the approval of a marijuana license renewal for Mr. Pelkey and Mr. Norton for Star City Wellness. They have a location of 694 Main Street. They are in compliance with all permitting and with all fees being paid at this time, and we do recommend approval.
Thank you very much. So at this point, we'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anybody that would like to speak on or against this license renewal, or if there's anybody from the business this evening that would like to speak. So seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask the council for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we approve a renewal application for adult use medical marijuana to Joseph Pelkey and Chase Norton, DBA Star City Wellness, with a location of 694 Main Street.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Green and seconded by Councilor Willett. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Second item in the public hearing section tonight is approval of an application for malt, spirituous, and vinous license for American Dream Restaurants doing business as Pizza Hut with the location of 814 North Main Street.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they are looking for a liquor license to serve alcohol at the Pizza Hut restaurant. At this time, they have obtained the proper permits, filed the proper applications, and have paid all appropriate fees. We do recommend approval.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing and ask public for comments for or against this renewal of application for Pizza Hut. Is there anybody from Pizza Hut that'd like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask the city council for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve application for malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license for American Dream Restaurants, LLC, doing business as Pizza Hut with a location of 814 Main Street.
I'll second.
Been moved by Councilor Willett and seconded by Councilor
King.
King. How you doing? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Trying to do things a little more formally tonight, so I don't remember last names as well, sorry. All right, third thing this evening is to adopt a Chapter 65 proclamation, key to the city flag display and ceremonial guidelines ordinance. So this is another public hearing aspect, and we'll ask the City Manager Brown to explain this a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Chapter 65, in which we had the public hearing for in June. This is the proclamation, key to the city flag display and ceremonial guideline ordinance. That was created in partnership with community members. We have reviewed this ordinance with council, and we do, at this time, it is complete for your review and your adoption or not. Do you have any specific questions about it?
Okay. let's open up the public hearing and ask for citizen comments at this time to discuss the Chapter 65 Proclamation Key to the City Flag Ordinance and Ceremonial Guidelines Ordinance. So, is there anybody who would like to speak for or against this proposal?
For those of us who haven't read it, should we have?
It was available in the agenda, yes, that was published last week. Yes. I can certainly provide you a copy after the meeting.
Anybody else want to speak on for or against this proposal? Going once, going twice. All right, so we'll close the public hearing section for chapter 3, and we'll ask city council for comments and a motion.
I have a few comments, kind of regarding some changes to some of the language within this, and I don't know if we should discuss my changes or recommendations at this point, or decide to table it until the August meeting to give people further time to review and or make suggestions.
What's the comments?
Yeah, you want to elaborate
Sure.
a little bit?
Yep, well, section 1, the purpose, states this ordinance establishes uniform guidelines for all parties interested in having a city or council-led ceremony such as a flag raising, proclamations, city honor requests, and public ceremonies. I guess my main issue with the thing comes back to the flag raising. I believe that on all public properties, the only flags that should be flown are American flag, state flag, and POW flag. And then there are a few other things throughout the rest of this that kind of caught my attention and drew some interest. I mean, I don't know if we want to go down through page by page, line by line, or
We're gonna go,
I guess it's up to.
I think if I could guide it just a little bit, we have gone through this. This will be number 2, I think.
This is the second public hearing. Yeah.
And if we're not ready, that's fine. We can go another 30 days. But I don't mind spending a few minutes on this, discussing this a little bit. If you're comfortable with that, and we can discuss this now, let's,
I mean, it's
put
just
them out there.
I don't know if obviously there are some of the citizens that haven't had the opportunity to review this draft. So basically, whatever discussion we're going to be having tonight is just going to be among the councilors in regard to this, versus citizens and
Yep.
the council.
It was presented at the first hearing, right?
Mhm.
Same material, without edits? Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
okay.
I'd like to hear your comments, Jeff, on it, to see what the suggestions that you recommend, and
Okay. Well, for that purpose, I mean, do you want me to read through all of chapter 65 and?
so just the pieces that you recommend changing.
Or just the pieces I recommend changing?
Yeah, just the pieces, yeah.
Okay, well then, section 1, purpose, I would remove flag raising as part of the purpose. I'm fine with having a city or council-led ceremony, proclamations, city honor requests, and ceremonies. Following down to section 4, the flag policy, states the purpose. The city of Presque intends to establish a citywide policy that follows the United States and state of Maine provisions governing the display of flags, including the United States flag, the state of Maine flag, city flag, the POW MIA flag. Any additions must be approved by the Presque City Council. I think the last sentence should be removed because I feel that the only flags that should be displayed are the United States flag, state of Maine, city, and POW MIA flag. That's really the only change to that. Under the section of guidance, paragraph 3 in it, examples of special flags or banners included but not limited to sister city flags, Heritage Month flags, example being Black History Month, Pride Month, Asian Pacific, American History, National Hispanic Heritage, Indigenous Peoples Heritage, flags received in recognition of awards, flags received from visiting groups, flags representing an organization dedicated to the public good for the citizens of Presque, or flags designating a local event or accomplishment. That's a lot of flags to deal with. So I don't even know if we need examples of special flags or banners extending beyond sister city flags, flags that recognize maybe educational accomplishments or honoring veterans.
And this is specific just for the pole at Riverside.
This covers
Everything in the city.
everything in the
Would-
city.
Wouldn't section 3 be completely taken out if we, going back, if you
Yeah,
look at the
could be,
purpose?
or the whole thing could be axed.
Well, if
You
that,
know,
that references definition in guidance number 2 says displayed on the flagpole located at Riverside Rec area close to the State Street Bridge. Seeming to notate that as the spot for special flags and banners, which are what you had read.
yeah, I don't think we need a spot for special flags or banners.
So I guess to be clear, that was not talking about this flagpole.
I'm talking about every flagpole that the city has,
No,
wherever it is.
no, the special flags are only at the Riverside. All other city flags are only the
Yes, Mr.
state,
Vice,
fed.
oh, sorry, yeah, I was gonna, Mr. Vice Chair, this would be the special, this would be for the Riverside flagpole. City Hall flagpole would continue to
Yep.
remain with the Stars and Stripes and main flag.
So
Um,
you could basically just strike number 3 and just add it as part of number 2, because number 3 really speaks to only to, about the location in number 2. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Kinda looks like there's a separate division there.
yep.
So you could just make number 2 a larger, encompass all of that language, but keep that all as one.
But then further down, we come into something else that I see, it may or may not be an issue, but, I mean, if we're here discussing it. But, the city manager will approve or deny each special flag request per the policy described below. I mean, if we're allowing, this special flagpole on Riverside, if we're gonna allow groups to display their banner or flag based on our approval, what's that say for the ones that we deny? Are we preventing their freedom of expression or their speech? I mean, are there constitutional issues that could arise from this by granting one group, by granting one group's request and denying another group's request? It's just, there's a lot of moving parts in this ordinance that should just pertain to state, American, and POW flags, in my opinion. So, I mean, I don't know if we wanna go back and streamline this, or tighten it up a little bit, or do away with it altogether and just stick with the flags we have.
If under the purpose though, on section 4, if you're going off of the city of Presque intends to establish the policy that relates to the display of flags including United States, state of Maine flag, and city flag POW, wouldn't that eliminate all other flags? If you're going off of just this, so all of the stuff for guidance would not be needed,
Right,
because we wouldn't be talking
Yeah.
about any of these other
Right.
flags.
that's, yeah,
So a lot of that section could be just,
yep,
if that's the case, a lot of this could be just striking right out.
yep. Which kind of alluded to my suggestion to either A, not accept the ordinance, or B, table it.
Well, I
Or-
think
yeah.
it's clear that we wanna make a few tweaks to this. you wanna respond to any of this, Tyler, at this point, or, do you wanna do a working group?
I was gonna say, my suggestion would be a working group or a workshop type format, where we can bring the interested parties back together, and resolve.
I mean, I think we could tighten this up a little bit, you know, if this is the avenue we're considering pursuing. Other than that,
Yeah.
our municipal flagpoles are our municipal flagpoles. I mean, I don't care what people fly wherever they want it, you know, on their private property or anywhere else, but
Any,
you open up the door for one, you're gonna open up the door for more than one.
Counselor King, anybody else wanna comment at this point? Green?
No, I just have the workshop and we'll come, see what people's interests are.
Yep. Yeah, there's no haste here, if it
No.
takes a few more weeks to work it out,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think that tonight is the
Yep.
night to adopt it as presented.
Very good. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'd move that we table the flag ordinance, key to the city, and ceremonial guidelines into the next meeting so we can have a workshop.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Williams and seconded by Counselor Green. Any other comments? All those in favor? Motion to table passes 6-0. Thank you. That'll conclude the public hearing section tonight, and now we have the opportunity to have citizen comments. I don't know if this is working or not. Anybody that would like to speak on behalf of themselves, please come to the podium. State your name and your address, and give us a few minutes of your time, and let us know what's on your mind. So this is citizen comment section for tonight. It's now open. And mic's working. Mine doesn't seem to be working. That's okay.
Yeah, they can hear you up there.
It is working,
Is it? You can hear me?
it's just not loud.
I just can't hear it, yeah. Anybody wanna discuss anything tonight? Looks like we have some written ones. So those should be read, tonight. If no one else wants to talk in person, we'll read these. You wanna take them?
Yeah.
Go for it. So again, this is an opportunity for people to come to the city council and have their comments listened to by the public. But you can also send them to us by email, which a couple of people have done, and so we'll read them now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of community member Frank Bemis, I'd like to read a comment that was sent in to us on July 3rd. Mr. Brown, would you please include this in the comments for the July 10th meeting? My name is Frank Bemis, and I live on Barton Street in Presque. Unfortunately, unable to make it this evening due to other circumstances. Writing in support of United Airlines' request for reconsideration of the order selecting aircraft carrier DOT OST-2000-8012. I ask that the city issue a letter in support of the reconsideration to allow a new RFP process in which all bidders know the correct EAS parameters. The manner in which the DOT conducted the RFP process was unfair to the airlines involved, but more importantly, it was unfair to air travelers. The proposals were initially reviewed by and met minimum EAS requirements. Later, the City Council elected to waive the EAS minimum requirements and to vote for the JetBlue proposal. There was insufficient notice to the public that there may be a change in airline providers and a significant reduction in round trips each week at PQI. I spoke to quite a few air travelers who were providers and who were completely surprised by the council vote. They incorrectly thought that the Airport Advisory Committee vote was the binding vote, so they did not participate in City Council deliberations. When the DOT began taking comments, the comments were 108 in favor of United and only 47 in favor of JetBlue. The DOT did not follow its own RFP process. Essential Air Services rules require 12 round trips per week, and the DOT put a 12 round trip flight per week minimum in the RFP. United Airlines and other air carriers followed the minimum requirement of the RFP, but JetBlue submitted a proposal for only 7 round trips per week. The DOT awarded the EAS contract to JetBlue despite it failing to meet the minimum requirements of the RFP. DOT allowed a variance from the RFP requirements based upon a Presque City Council waiver that was entered after the proposals were submitted. I disagree with the City Council's waiver of the EAS minimum requirements, but if these requirements are going to be waived, then that waiver should have been indicated as part of the RFP process. This would allow all airlines to submit proposals on equal footing. This new RFP could include one option without a waiver and another option with a waiver of EAS requirements. The City Council and the DOT would then have many more options to choose from to ensure the best decision is made for this area. Air travelers could also have a better opportunity to comment. Sadly, my own efforts to use PQI after September 5th to get out west have been extremely difficult. From my experience in talking to others, unless you want to travel to certain locations on the East Coast, air travelers have extensive delays and awkward connections to get where they want to go. A new process would be fairer for our community and provide us an opportunity to ensure our elected officials understand our needs and views. I ask that the city support the reconsideration to allow a new RFP process. And in addition, we had one other citizen comment come in. This is from Miss Judith Kenny. Her comment is, I am troubled that United is trying to reverse the decision to have JetBlue come into our airport. I had previously written the DOT to place my support with JetBlue. United has given us poor service and we need a Boston connection. I look forward to using JetBlue more often. And those are the comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other comments and seeing no other people interested in speaking tonight, we'll close the citizen comments section and move to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. So the first item is to approve the minutes of the City Council from the June 5th, 2024 meeting and the June 20th, 2024 meeting. To approve the 2024 warrants number 21, 22, 23, 24, totaling $2,129,277.88. How would the council like to do these?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no objection, I would move that we approve the consent agenda as presented as one item.
Second that?
Moved by Councilor Green and seconded by Councilor Williams. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Under old business, item 6, we're going to discuss an employee handbook, and we'll ask Mr. Tyler Brown to discuss that, open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this employee handbook pertains to our team members that work for us here in the city. We have this project has been going on for quite a while to update and revise the employee handbook and ensure that it meets modern specifications. The handbook was reviewed. Quite a few changes were made, as you can see listed in the bullet points below. I'm not going to read them all, but we do recommend a motion to approve the employee handbook as presented.
So this primarily is addressing employees.
Yes, this is a refreshed version of our employee handbook, and what this will do is allow us to level set expectations with our team members, ensure that we have a good understanding and move forward from there.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions, comments?
Just the only comment I'd make is that this is something that we've been working on and off for well over a year. And so these items were identified as cumbersome or outdated over the hiring process in the last few years. So I think this is a great way to move that forward, make it easier for the Human Resources Director and others to manage the system. And so there's absolutely nothing controversial here, but just kind of modernizing and making sure that things are updated. So I think it's a great effort, and I applaud that, and I recommend we adopt it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who would like to discuss this?
Tyler, just, I know it's been going on for a while. I'm assuming that you're in agreement with all this, with you being the new top
hot dog here.
Yes, I agree, and I will just say, to give a shout out to Patty and Kelly for doing some great work on this. They really did moved in great detail.
Any other discussion? Would anybody like to advance a motion?
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we do adopt the the changes to the employee handbook.
Second that.
Moved by Counselor King and seconded by Counselor Williams. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? So advances 6-0. Thank you very much. Item 7 is under new business, the Presque Isle Development Fund language change. Take it away, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So our Presque Isle Development Fund, essentially, we have had funds sitting in an account for quite some time, and these funds are for our Main Street businesses to utilize to essentially revitalize their storefronts. These funds, in review with the team from the Presque Isle Development Fund, we would like to change quite a few pieces of language to make it a bit easier and less cumbersome, or a little less cumbersome for folks to utilize. And those changes are indicated, and this would move from a loan program to a grant program overall. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just add a note from the Development Fund trustees. The trustees of the Presque Isle Development Fund met on June 12th, 2024, and reviewed and accepted the language changes to the Presque Isle Development Fund bylaws, Section 10, Facade Loan Program. The Presque Isle Development Fund trustees are recommending this language change to the City Council for their approval. Please add this to the agenda for July 10th. I just wanted to note that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, so again, this is something that the community had some discussion over the years about the fact that, you know, we had crumbling facades on some of the buildings downtown, paint, signs, windows, things that just weren't up to date, didn't look good. So they did a great job and brought forth this facade program, and this has been in place now for a few years, but it has not been widely utilized. In fact, there's only been very few, probably less than 5 businesses that have actually utilized the program because of how it was designed. And so the fact of the matter is, through the grant process of funds that came into the city for this purpose, very few of them have gone anywhere. They've just sat in an account unused. So this effort is brought forth because of all of the exciting developments, new businesses downtown. Most of our storefronts are full. Our downtown is being revitalized. It looks a lot better. It's more active. It's vibrant. And so with this change, my own personal feeling is that by allowing a grant to these businesses to improve their downtown storefront, that'll only improve the viability of the community, the look of our downtown, and the want for people to go down and spend time there. So I think this is a good opportunity, and it allows those funds to actually be used rather than just sit there and earn interest. And the fact that it's being recommended by the Development Fund trustees, who most of them have served on this committee for multiple years, several of them for more than 10, and have great experience in loaning funds and doing development in the community, speaks to the fact that this is a good opportunity.
Craig, if I can, and I'm only bringing this up because this not only makes it a grant, but it limits the potential materials that you can use for renovating the siding even further.
Right.
With you being involved in a lot of historical things, it does not allow any vinyl, plastic, or metal siding. So what would remain? Brick?
So basically what in our downtown area, most of the buildings are either of a wood or a or brick nature. And so there's been several attempts at the downtown that people have put other materials on the buildings, and then they've deteriorated badly. And so I think the interest here was to utilize things that were natural to the building. I think we can point to the Maine Farmers Exchange building and the building next door this last year. Maine Farmers Exchange, a number of years ago, put a lot of effort into the fact they have a wood front building, and it was restored. It was done beautifully. The building next door where Day's Jewelry was, it's now the music store, just did, I'm dating myself a little bit, they did a beautiful job with replacing the brick that was there on the building and bringing it back again to its original stature. So I think the intent is not to do items that are going to be non-appropriate in a downtown setting and maybe not as long-lived.
But the main goal is appearance.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything that you mentioned has more maintenance requirements than vinyl or plastic or metal siding. So actual wood is going to deteriorate a lot quicker than that. And they make some very nice looking vinyl, plastic, cedar shake looking materials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of those buildings are 3 stories, and the only way to do that is rent a boom and get on a sidewalk. I know this isn't the intent of this adjustment here, but you're gonna have the same problems. No one is going, I mean, the likes of the Mason revitalization on the music shop, that's not gonna happen 10 times down there. That's a unique situation where there were some ties
Mm-hmm.
with historics within the family,
Right.
and they wanted to restore it.
Well, and if this was something that, where we're saying, you know, the amount of money that can be put forth to this, and we're saying we're going to grant you the money to do it, we're also saying if we're going to give you the money to do it, we want you to do it with materials that we actually want in our downtown that are appropriate.
But it's not your building, so
Where are you citing that, Doug?
It's on the next to last paragraph on page 2.
Okay. Thanks.
So if you had a building that had all those
Okay.
parameters, 3 stories, very hard to get to, likely adjoining another property, and you could put a wood siding that needs painting or staining,
Mm-hmm.
or a high-end vinyl cedar shake looking material,
Mm-hmm.
you would put the wood.
If I'm using someone else's money and they're saying that that's what they're going to pay for, that's what I'm going to
But
do.
why do we as a taxpayer want to require this much more maintenance necessary material for a look
Yeah, that's a
that
good
can
point.
be achieved with 21st century materials?
Well, I guess all I'd go back to is we have had vinyl and plastic siding in the downtown. It's deteriorated, it cracks, it breaks, it falls apart, and it isn't long-lived in a commercial setting that's downtown. The dirt that clings to it, and then next to it you see a brick building or some of the other buildings that are down there, and they don't have that look. So I think the intent with them is to have long-term appropriate materials that'll look good long-term, and I don't think vinyl and plastic are going to do that. I think that's the intent.
So has there been any engineer consulting or architect consulting for that?
I think that's gonna be on a case-by-case basis, you know.
Well, no, you're excluding it
Well,
right
I'm
here.
wondering if we approve the bylaw language changes, I mean, if this is something still that the development fund would be able to decide on a case-by-case basis. If I've got a storefront
Right,
on Main Street and, yeah, I mean, that brickwork's gonna be 40 grand or something like that, but they do really make some really nice materials now, I mean, building
Well,
materials.
and that's right.
You know,
But we do have built that exact thing downtown. Someone used a fake brick, and it's all fallen off the front of the building down there.
yeah.
You know,
I-
so
I- I
so
get it.
so I guess my point is that, you know, I think their intent originally, and as this was originally written for the public, it originally was written that these standards would be not necessarily a requirement, but would conform to the standards set forth by the Planning Board, the Presque Development Fund, and the Presque Historical Society. They have stricken that language, so this is simply, has nothing to do with the Planning Board anymore, has nothing to do with Historical Society anymore. No one's requiring that they do it in any certain manner. They're just requiring they do it with appropriate long-term materials that aren't gonna deteriorate. If they're gonna give them the money to do it, they want them to do it with something that's
Right.
long-term, that's all.
You need some much stricter guidelines. I mean, someone needs to talk to some of these coastal towns that, you know, get as strict as you going through a McDonald's drive-through, and the McDonald's drive-through can't even talk to you through the speaker because of noise violation. You know, you could put some
Yeah.
requirements that if you use vinyl siding, it's gotta be a certain thickness, and that can be evidence from an architect saying, you know, yes, these have proven to be essentially lifetime or 50-year type stuff.
Well, and
I mean, no one wants
And
our money
the
spent on
ASICS
junk.
boards are good boards and things like that. I get it. I mean, there are some other things, and perhaps, you know, there's some tweaks there that could be had, but I think the ultimate thing is that, you know, I don't wanna call out any particular businesses downtown, but there's a couple of businesses downtown that have wood fronts that look absolutely abysmal. There's a few that have covered up their pediments at the top that are covered in wood, and that wood's falling off the building onto the sidewalk, and wood.
And that's what you're just saying, you wanna spend your money on.
But it wasn't appropriate wood originally to the building. It's covering up brick. It was someone just went in and put plywood over it. So
You have no guidelines about that.
yeah. So the point is that, you know, they're trying to come up with a way to have appropriate materials used.
Where they
And
can go back and use
and,
wood to
and,
recover
and
it,
it's,
though.
and it says, you know, it's recommended that improvements conform to the historical nature of the downtown architecture. Is what that is, because that's what had happened. You know, they said, well, we're gonna go in and cover it up with some T111, and it's falling apart, it's rotted, it's falling off the building. They don't look very good. And, yeah.
I've been, I want to just state for the record, I'm on the PIDF board, and I'm gonna recuse myself from further comment, because I don't recall this as being a big part of our discussion. It was all about making the funds
More available.
accessible to these folks. So I will be abstaining from this vote. In that, just wanna, I don't wanna sway anybody's opinion. I just wanna say that's the reason why I'm being unusually quiet right now.
Kevin, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Since you're on the committee, is there a specific reason why it was changed from 5,000 to 100,000 for the increase?
The
And-
cost of construction in the last 10 years have gone to the point where it just didn't make sense to have it that low, so they increased the ceiling.
And do you know what the available balance is right now?
It's
Give or take.
about $1 million.
Is that much?
200,000.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
gonna say, I think-
We're currently at 200,000.
Okay, 200.
Sorry.
So by increasing it to 100, I mean, theoretically, 2 businesses could apply and we'd be done. Is that-
If the group grants it. I mean, the
That's
thing
correct.
is, yeah.
If the group grants it, and if, depending on the projects that come in, we have already, while the process isn't open, we have had a few folks inquire already with amounts that are less than that.
They weren't getting a lot of activity on the small numbers, and so they want the funds utilized in the best possible manner and get it out on the street and get the best possible look for the downtown. So they granted the increase.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Sear, we do have guidelines. They are not included with this, but some basic guidelines of materials and things that were previously completed for the previous program. So we are in the process of updating those now
Yeah.
for those guidelines for this future program. But happy to have a working group on this and to review some of the language if we need to.
Would you like to have a motion?
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, I'm fine. If you guys want to, you know, go through that and have some more discussion, I'm totally fine. I guess my point is they've got some applications that people wanna do some renovations, and this is where it come from, so I guess, I mean, I'm okay with approving it, I'm also okay with tabling it, so whatever you folks wanna do is fine.
Can't say anything.
What do you wanna do?
I'd say with this much discussion, Mr. Chair, I move that we table this item until we can get further clarification.
I second that.
It's motion to table by Counselor King and seconded by Counselor Williams to send this back to the Presque Development Fund Board of Trustees at their next available meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
That work?
Yep.
Any other comments?
Sounds good?
All those in favor? All those opposed? I'm gonna abstain. All right, thank you.
That works.
Item 8 is to discuss the annual tax commitments, so we'll ask the city manager to introduce this, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Lewis Cousins, our tax assessor, as well as our finance director, Brad Turner. They will both be speaking on this.
Welcome, Lewis, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
And I do want to preface by thanking Lewis and his team for the tremendous amount of work they put in over the last few weeks. Long hours, late nights, and working on holidays, so thank you very much.
Welcome. So we got handouts, three separate ones, if you can take one and pass them. Those are different, yeah.
Did you take one for yourself?
I did.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure when your hand on it, had one. Okay.
No, I got it.
Good. Hey Tyler, do you have a wash like health setting? Do you have a blows harder setting?
Take it away, sir.
All right, so, we got more detail this year than usual. The reason is, the impact of what we're doing this year is a little bit more than usual. And I wanted to give you the full spectrum.
Put your,
Can't see it, I don't know. There. I wanted to give you the full spectrum, to see the whole picture before you made any decisions. One of the papers I gave you has a few questions on it that I think you ought to keep in mind as we go through this. So on the first handout, page 1, tax rate calculation form, you can see circled in red a mill rate of 21,250. And that would be a reduction from the 2023 mill rate of 22,600. That's really all we need to garner from that page right now. Page 2 is the history that we've been tracking. And I got 16 up to 24 showing on this page. And I would suggest we look at the two blue columns that are 23 and 24 and just run down through them. You can see the increases in the taxable real estate, line 1, taxable personal property, line 2. Line 3 is the total taxable, the homestead exempt property, the value of it, the reimbursement on the homestead property, and then the Betty, not taxable, but the Betty qualified personal property. And you see a pretty good jump in that number. Betty enhanced, because we have more than 2% of our total valuation is personal property, we get a better than 50% reimbursement. I believe the sheet said 58.7 is our reimbursement. And then the total of the valuation base, 757,595,000. The next are our deductions, the county tax. You'll see the difference there over in the far right column, significant. The total municipal obligation, including school and county. And then, I'm not sure, does yours say 79.1 or 3?
791.
79.1. That's a wrong number. That's the old, that's the BLD only. That number should be something, well, I can tell you what it is.
That's line 9.
Yep.
The TIF.
529,369 is what that number should be. And then the education, up 256,000. Total appropriations up 1.69, 1,697,000. Revenue sharing up 388,544. That's 388,000. And other revenues, which is the fees collected through the different departments, up $136,000. So the net to be raised this year is up 1,172,000. As calculated on that tax rate calculator, we can go with the mill rate as low as 0.02125, that's $21.25 per thousand, and maintain the level of overlay that we've been carrying through the years. So, if you choose to take action tonight, that's the recommendation. Brad, Tyler, and I met earlier in the day, and that would be the recommendation. But I don't know that you might want to take a deeper swipe into this and hold a workshop and get a little more clear on the full impact of what we're doing. So page 3 is what we get from the state. And you see a number circled up there in red. The state says the city's 2024 municipal valuation should be $680,250,000. Just kind of keep that number in mind.
Okay.
Page 4 is our summary sheet from the work we've done. That last number we looked at was 680,250,000. We've come in at 681,631,000. So we're slightly over. What happened, we did our work, and the other handout we're going to talk about the ratio study. We did our work, and then we added in all the solar, and it put us over. The solar did. So just keep that in mind too, and that's part of the reason why we may want to take a second look and dig in deeper before we finalize stuff. The next page, a few of the accounts at the top that were significantly increased this year. And of course, FW Web at the top, then Falcon and Dead River, and you see the numbers. There's $17 million worth of new value between those, what is it, nine companies that reside here in the Presque. You can see a lot of it's in personal property. In fact, I think the majority is, if you separate it out, is personal property. That's business investment in the community here. It's the best kind there is. The next couple of columns is the solar, $16 million worth of solar here in the city. Now, that is going to be factored at 50%. Either it's Betty qualified if it's not connected to the grid, or it's solar qualified if it is connected to the grid. And right now, only one of them is connected. Also, there are some small ones that consume their own energy on site. They also are qualified, but I don't have them on here. Next down.
So the solar fields are almost 17 million.
2 on the Industrial Council, Parsons Street, Carmichael Street. The Micmacs is the top one, and the next one is Dr. Jones, Mrs. Jones. Doug?
I guess to try and answer a question the middle way through is, how did our taxable real estate go up over 100 million?
Well, I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Yep.
Because all of these numbers aren't anywhere near that.
Yep. So there's part of it. So those were only the increases in value on those companies. We had a bunch more.
Napa wasn't calculated?
Napa on April 1 was just a shell, and we do have value on it, but not a lot for this year. We'll be going back to them next year. If you look up above the Veterans Clinic, we had those on last year at a lower amount. This is the increase this year on the Veterans Clinic. So the next square below, you might recognize some of those addresses. And it's telling you what your tax bill was in 2023 and what it looks like in 2024 at a mill rate of 21.3. So you can see how it impacts the taxpayers. And what we've got on paper right now, we can work with if we need to. But I want you to see this, because this is how it's going to affect everybody, okay? And the last set in this piece is for maybe a little later in the discussion, but the because of so much new value this year that we can't be guaranteed of next year, it's whether or not there will be consideration to pay a little more on the county tax bill than the 1/3. So there will be a new full 1-year tax bill in our hands for next year's commitment, plus the 1/3 that we would be carrying over if it stays the way it is. So before we go too further, I just want to explain the other set of papers. This is the ratio study. This is the work we do downstairs. Page 1, you there? Yep. Yep. So page 1, you see an arrow in the center of the page pointing at all the number 2s. Those number 2s are our grade D, what we call grade D homes. 2 circles down below, 0.73 and 0.96. These were the sales that occurred in 2022. And we've put those into a spreadsheet, analyzed them out, and come up with some ratios. When we started, that group of D grade properties were coming in at 73% of what they sold for. Those are actual sales on the market. When we get done massaging, they're coming in at 96%. Okay, still below 100. That's the D grades. Page 2, you start to see the C's, the average ones, and you got to actually go to page 3 to see the totals. But when we started, they were at 75%, and when we finished, they're at 96%.
Okay.
Next, page 4, the grade B homes. When we started, they were at 83%, and when we finished, they were at 96%. The grade Bs were higher, most likely because we targeted those ones last year. And I don't think we caused inequity, but it shows up higher than the other lower grades did. And then page 5 is what we had for what we call grade A homes for sales. They started at 82 and they ended at 96. So that's us doing our work to the best of our ability. We want those final ratios to all match, and they do. So it's just to justify the work we did and the amounts we've come at. But when you
To qualify for the exemptions and everything else, Lou,
Yep.
isn't there like the minimum number? Isn't it, was it 80-something%?
Okay.
Whatever.
reimbursements is what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Back
in
on the
order to qualify
first,
for those
yeah, back on the
reimbursements.
first page, down at the bottom right, there's overlay, then there's Betty reimbursement and homestead reimbursement. Those numbers, homestead reimbursement, 746,210, and Betty reimbursement of 922,033 are also factored by the ratio if we fall below 91. So if we stay 91 or above, we get to certify at 100. But if we fall below, if we're at 80%, these reimbursements come in at 80% too. And there's another one, tree growth, also does that same thing. So it takes money out of the city if you don't
Right.
if you don't maintain there.
So if we don't, I guess to make, in my head, just to secure
Yep.
this, so if we don't continually evaluate homes to be assessed at an appropriate value, then the ultimate payer of that is every taxpayer, because then they're going to lose their homestead exemption full value, and they're going to end up paying a higher tax bill because it'll affect our tax mill rate.
Yep. So I didn't say that part, but their individual homestead reductions,
Right.
exemptions also get reduced by that factor. So if we're at 80%, they get 80% of the $25,000 reduction as well. So yes, that comes directly out of their pocket.
Right.
And then these
And the state
reductions,
doesn't get,
come out of the
they don't
city
give us,
budget.
the city, our money, but the taxpayers also, every single one of them lose
Yep.
money themselves.
we get 1,980 or so homestead qualified properties here in the city. So
And they're all qualified this year at 25?
25, if we make some change,
Right.
okay? We gotta get up above 91, right now we're at 86.
Right,
Oh, right now we're at 96, but we started at 86.
correct,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Louis, unless I missed it, can you tell me, cause obviously a lot of the tax bills are gonna go up, or I say that on some of them. For-
On that sheet,
For the people's assessment, did you just use a flat rate percentage for
for
the grades of homes? How-
flat
how-
rate percentage, so what we did,
So for like grade 2, grade 3, like.
Yeah.
You obviously didn't evaluate every home this year, so how do you figure out what
so,
percentage to increase the assessments by?
yeah, so what we do is a mass appraisal. So we don't look at every house when we do this work every year, but we have looked at every house. We have the data in our computer as to how it's graded and what its condition is. And that's why we're out all the time visiting properties, just to maintain and upgrade that data. Your question, how did we differentiate between Bs and Ds, I think?
Or, no, just for example, on, say, grade 2 homes.
Yep.
Most of them will see an assessment change on the value of their property, so how do you figure out for those homes how much to increase their assessment by each year?
Right, so we studied these sales, we know what the ratio is they're selling at
Yeah,
compared to what they're assessed at. And in a mass appraisal situation, we have to bring them all up, whatever percent it is, to get to the percent we want. Now, that does mean some increase more than others.
yeah.
There are other factors like their size, garages, sheds, porches, those things. And we didn't dig deep down that way, we just went by the grade this time, so.
So for like, say, we're just using grade 2 for example.
Yep.
All those homes on the grade 2, they would all increase the same percentage?
Same percentage, but not the same dollars, yes.
Yeah, same,
Yes,
same,
yes.
same percentage on what their assessed value.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And again, there are other factors too. You know, whether or not they have a garage or sheds and porches, yeah, but on, everything's on average in our world. We have to, and again, the mass appraisal situation.
The one thing that made a lot of sense to me, I went in and sat with Louis a couple years ago, so we had a gentleman that had a question, and that's the first time I really kind of got a look inside the tent on how it worked. And so when they look at homes individually and they go around and they put that data in the computer, so if the deck's new, the deck has the highest grade in the tax software. If the deck's weathered or old, then it has a lower grade. So even though the value of the deck might have originally been $5,000, it might not be only valued at half of that now because it's older. And same
Yep.
thing with the roof and the foundation and the siding. So every home has its individual grade from the work they do individually.
Yep.
And that's reflects in the value of the home to begin with.
It does. And
So it's very interesting, but it is an individual basis.
And to build
for the
on what Craig is
individual
talking about right
price.
there, the computer has depreciation, physical depreciation scales built into it. So over time, the computer automatically deducts for time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we literally had this many sales of properties in
In
2022?
2022, 2023 is just as many.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't even started to count the last 3 pages, but I'm over 160 so far. What is the number?
I think it was 320 or 330,
Yeah, that
somewhere
makes
in there.
sense.
Yeah.
Over 300
A
homes
normal
bought.
average year before COVID used to be 250, 260.
There
Per
were
year?
still that
Yep.
many? Wow.
Yep.
That's
Mm.
amazing.
So this is every house or property that sold in 2022, or just the ones you adjusted?
We listed every house, but there are a few that we throw out. Either they were bankruptcy process, interfamily, any of those things. We throw those out, don't even consider them as arm's length.
So you have these fairly uniform increases on
Right.
houses that sold in 22.
Yep.
Obviously, these aren't the only increases you're doing this year.
We did some stuff to land too.
Well, no, I meant to that
Oh, no.
sold in 21 or,
Now I see what you're saying. So yes, we use this data to apply it to all of them.
gotcha.
All the grade Ds got increased because of the difference between where we were and where we are citywide.
So it's not
Everybody.
like just because your house sold in 22, you're getting a tax increase.
That would get us in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so just one thing I would say that was very interesting is, I just saw somewhere here an address I recognized. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Only card one.
So, so I had done a bank appraisal, came back. It's interesting, it's within a couple $1,000s of what this is, and this is your calculations through your process. And those are their calculations from an individual person coming to my home,
Doing a fee appraisal.
doing a fee appraisal. So I would say if I had to say, is it a fair process and does it come back with an accurate number, I'd say you did a damn good job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and those guys get to pin it right down fine. And on the day that we come within a couple thousand, we're pretty pleased with what we did too.
Yeah, I'd say.
So, you know, the question
Did good.
for yourselves is when you look down that column of 2024 and see the values there, is your property worth that amount of money? That's, and if it is, you know, and if it isn't,
Well, there's 300 of your neighbors that are,
yeah.
you know, so it, statistically, it bears it out.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, so, again, as we started here, it's a lot to digest. I don't know if you wanna talk about it some more, or have a workshop or anything before you take any action. But certainly open to that. Talk to Brad, he's not out of money for the year, so he's okay with another month, easy enough. Thought Brad was here. Yeah, he's, yeah.
Well, this looks nicely prepared.
I would almost like to have a workshop, or at least table it for a month just to digest a little bit, because since we just got it's a lot of
Yeah,
information
yeah,
to.
no, it's a lot, and it
Walk
is
over
gonna
that.
have an impact, there's no question, people are gonna feel this, so.
So it's in the general speaking, if everyone's property stayed the same condition, for argumentative sake, their assessment has gone up a fair amount,
Yep,
but the mill rate is going down somewhat.
somewhat, not enough to offset the increase in value, but,
So,
yes.
as a general rule of thumb, people are gonna see a tax increase.
yeah, almost guaranteed. So, since COVID started, since 19, the values have been increasing at a greater rate than we had seen before, and for a prolonged time. Before, we'd seen 2 and 3 year spikes, but this one has carried on. We've talked with the realtors, we have meetings with them, and they're saying we don't see an end to this in sight. It's just gonna keep right on, at least 5% a year for 3 years is what we were last told, so.
So how much of that taxable real estate is, I guess, homes or properties compared to solar? I mean, solar, that's not taxable personal property.
At 50%, it is, you know, we'll get reimbursed. It's not taxable. The people that own it won't pay tax, but the state's gonna reimburse us one way or the other, either through the Betty program or the solar exemption program.
So these big solar fields do not pay any property tax?
Not to us. Yep, yep. This is Maine's promotion of green energy.
And then Maine pays you back 50% of it?
Actually, the taxpayers of Maine pay back 50%
Well, yeah.
through other taxes.
But that value, okay, so that value that we're getting is not under taxable real estate or taxable personal property either. It's under the Betty.
That's under personal, the ones that are connected, which are only the top 2, are in real estate as solar exempt. That's the way the state wants them, is in real estate as solar exempt. But if they're not connected to the grid yet, then they're doing it under the Betty program, and we have to do that under personal property. So hopefully next year, we'll be turning those other 4 over into the real estate side.
But in either case, it's still that 50% deal. Okay. So I mean, that looks like, I mean, you've easily got 60% of your valuation increase from your everyday properties.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
so,
easy,
you
probably
know,
more than
yeah, we're just looking at the top 9 or so here in the new value due to new construction and new investments, and you're seeing the 17 million, but there was a lot, I don't have a number. I think there was well over 200 building permits that had to be visited, that mostly all saw some increase.
Now, one thing too, and again, this was something that I guess probably for informational purposes. So you're given the value from the state. Your job is to find what in the community adds up to that in an equitable manner based on the sales data that you get, so that it's distributed amongst all of the different types of properties. And I guess where I'm going with this, if you didn't do that, and if we continued to dwindle in value and the community went out of compliance, well, the first thing is we'd lose out on those extra monies coming in. But ultimately, what that would trigger would be a request for an audit of the entire community and an outside person to come in and to do that for us. And because you're doing this on a yearly basis and keeping up with this, we don't have to do a reevaluation, that word, the R word that no one likes. If we did a reevaluation in the city of Presque and you weren't doing this yearly and making sure it was appropriate year to year, what's an estimate of a value that we would have to spend in order to reevaluate our entire community, Louis?
You would definitely be over 600,000. You would probably be closer to $1 million. Yeah. So the reason to do revals are when your ratio falls out of line, and then there's a second measure called the quality rating, and your quality rating also falls out of line. When I came here in 14, the quality rating was 15, and 1 to 20 is the range. The different changes we made up until last year, we stayed at 15, 16 the whole time. Last year, that quality rating went up to 19, and I was disappointed. I'm in hopes these changes bring that piece back down. But if the quality rating goes above 20 by any measurable amount, or by a significant amount, and the ratio falls below, say, 80, you got to start considering reval. And that's what we're doing, is keeping us out of that situation. Presque's last reval was 1992, and we've still got the good numbers. So it's those numbers that determine whether or not you need to do a reval.
And, and just to put a final point on that, is that, and when you do a reval, all that really does in the end result is brings you back into compliance, like you're doing for us on a yearly basis, and add another $600 to $1 million in cost to the taxpayer to have to pay on their taxes, which for us is about a $2 million increase. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, just to kind of make it plain to the public,
There's one more
how
part
valuable
about that.
this is that we do this.
There's one more part about that, and when you wait 15 years and everything has gone south, and then you do one reval 1 year, the taxpayers don't take it well. We've seen lots of examples of that right here locally. So, yeah. It's better off to maintain them year after year.
Louis, there's a lot of numbers to digest here, and I'd like to study this a little bit more.
I think that's the right thing to do.
I think we're in the ballpark. We're really probably plus or minus three places past the decimal point right now, right? I think there's
The date requirement is there.
no, we're good on the date requirements right now, right? We'll just, we're in front of the time to assess interest penalties and taxes due and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So those dates are in October, so we're good for another 30 days.
And keep in mind that there's been a couple of years, the year I first started, the bills either went out in October or November, and also that year the school struggled to get their budget passed. I think it was October that year. So if we get them out in late July or early August, we'll be right on time. Interest doesn't start until October 16th. So.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you folks feel otherwise that you want to, stamp this thing tonight, but
I would move that we table into the next meeting.
Only modification I'd put to that is I'd just say special meeting or next meeting, depending on if we decide to have a special workshop for it, or if we just wait till the next meeting.
I'd be in favor of a workshop and give public due enough notice so that they're invited, but I don't know what the next month's agenda is going to look like. Tonight's was fairly short, but if we're going to,
Whatever
this is
you
a
guys
serious
think.
subject. Could take an hour, 2 hours. I just soon have a special meeting. So
I can change my motion to move that we table this to a special meeting, later this month.
Good. Works for me. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Been moved by Councillor Williams and seconded by Councillor King. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you.
Great.
We'll table that. So, Lewis and Brad, thank you very much. There's a lot of information there. It's really more so than I've seen in the past, and a lot more to digest. And
Yeah, that's fantastic.
thank you again for that. Next item on the agenda this evening, if I find my agenda underneath Lewis's stuff, is to talk about item 9, which is the annual report dedication. Excuse me.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this would be for the 2023 annual report, dedicated yearly. We do have a few names that were submitted. Lori Kelly, J.R. Howlett and the Presque Public Works team, and then Dana Leger, may
Luigi.
pronounce Luigi. Those were names that have been brought up, but this is for verbal discussion amongst the council.
So it's a tradition to name our annual report after a person or a committee or a group. There's been some notable ones in the past. It's a ceremonial dedication, basically. So, anybody would like to start the discussion? Anybody would like to make a motion as to who should be the dedicatee this year?
I would move Chief Lori Kelly, or retired Chief Lori Kelly. She had a lot of years with us, and further came into power in a tough time and smoothed things, resolved things quite well.
Yeah, I'd kind of just dovetail on that. She had a 30-year career, first female officer, first female chief, distinguished career, wonderful service to the community, and absolutely, you're spot on your description that her tenure as chief came at a difficult time in the community, and it was very well done. She did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I could echo that. A lot of things changed in law enforcement and policing from early 90s to 2023.
Yeah.
And she was there for all of it.
Any other discussion? Someone like to make a motion?
And just to me say, the other names by no means are not appropriate. It's just that she is a 30-year employee and just retired after a very distinguished career, and that's the only reason I put her slightly ahead of the other names. No other reason.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Doug?
Yeah, I thought that's kind of what I was doing. I moved to.
Okay, was there a second?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved by Mr. Councillor Seer and seconded by Councillor Willett. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the dedication for the annual report to be named after our former police chief, Lori Kelly, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, the last, next to the last item of business is our manager's report, so we'll ask Tyler to give that right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good evening to everyone. Again, I want to add my thanks to Lewis and Brad for the detailed report on the tax commitment and all the time you've spent with that. Really appreciate that. Just a few updates this evening. First and foremost, I think everyone's seeing a lot of paving that's going on around the community. Greatly appreciate our Public Works team, and thank you to Dana as well for assisting that team. A couple updates: the paving of Academy and North Street. Those are main DOT projects. Those are scheduled to be completed by August 23rd. They will begin doing a mill of Academy Street on July 22nd. So we do have quite a bit of paving yet left in the next few weeks. I hope everyone is seeing that and enjoying those nice smooth roads because we do still have quite a bit to do. And then additionally, the Central Drive streetlights, the application, Versant has submitted that application to the FAA. They are just awaiting approval on the completion, or approval on that so that they can begin the completion process. A couple other things that we had this past week. We had a really great fireworks celebration, July 3rd. We had a wonderful celebration amongst the community, and I will say, I think to me, the best part was at the end. When you were hearing the cheering and the excitement amongst the community and seeing so many folks come out. I mean, there wasn't a parking spot to be had in Presque Isle. Just a great sense of community and togetherness. So really happy to see that, and really appreciate the downtown committee for assisting with the funding for that and ensuring a great show for all. In addition, we do have Peace Park first phase is open, the fencing is up, and we have seen quite a few folks over at the Peace Park Dog Park most evenings after 5 o'clock. It's pretty busy over there, so really exciting opportunity there. In addition, looking at the financial report, this is from May. We came in about $492,000 below budget. Our revenues higher this year, $368,000, and our expenses $124,000 below. So doing very well in the finance piece as well, and I really appreciate Brad and team for doing a great job there. And then just lastly to mention, as we talk about a 30-year employee, we do have we have two individuals in the room. Mr. Lewis Cousins, he hit 10 years as of June 28th, if I recall correctly, June 28th. And then actually Deb as well, who's filling in for Kim, she just hit 17 years last month. So thank you both very much for your service, and congratulations. And then lastly, just to mention social media. Last week in a 6-day period, during the obviously the fireworks were a big draw on social media as well, 21,600 visitors to the City of Presque Isle Facebook page. So quite considerable there. A lot of draw, a lot of attention, and a lot of folks asking questions in regards to Presque Isle and how they can get to this community and be a part of it. So very wonderful to see there. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much. For announcements tonight, it's summertime, and so I have a few announcements to read. So bear with me for a minute or two. Quaggy Joe Ski Slopes out on the Fort Fairfield Road is hosting a French Fry Festival this Friday from 3 till I think 10 p.m. It's hosted by McCain Foods and many other sponsors. So bring your family out to Quaggy Joe this Friday and participate in some French fries.
Kids Carnival and movie.
Kids Carnival, there's movies, there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's also a ferry festival on July 13th at Riverside Park from 11:30 to 1:30. So that's this Saturday. Next Thursday, July 18th from 6 to 8:30, Rockin' on Riverside will be back with music by Marionette. I'd like to give a shout out on the following Saturday to our cousins over at the Maine Potato Blossom Festival. That is on Saturday, July 20th. The parade will take place. So it's always a great event for the region. So keep that on your calendars. The Masked Performer will be at the Forum on Friday, July 26th at 7 p.m. And a Back to the 90s party with DJ Scuba Steve will also be at the Forum on July 27th at 5 p.m. So trying to get some activity in events scheduled at the Forum. So Friday, 7 o'clock, the Masked Performer. Following Saturday, 90s party with Scuba Steve at 5 o'clock.
And it's not Zorro, right?
What?
It's not Zorro?
Not that I know
No,
of.
okay.
The city has the following employment vacancies. We have a police officer's position open, economic and community development director's position, part-time code enforcement officer. We're looking for an airport line service technician and a public works director. We have the following vacancies for boards and committees. Assessment review, 2 one-year alternates, audit committee, 1 4-year member, downtown revitalization, 1 4-year member, Library Board of Trustees, 1 1-year alternate. Recs and Parks Advisory Board, 3 1-year alternates. The Zoning Board, we have 1 1-year alternate. Please see the city clerk for an application or apply online. And finally, the next scheduled meeting of the Presque City Council will be on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And just as a footnote, Northern Maine Fair is supposed to start Wednesday, 7/31 and run till August 4th. There'll be more information, I'm sure, online about that. And that's all I have for announcements tonight. And anybody else have any announcements they want to make?
Just one more, Mr. Chair, I forgot earlier. Nomination paperwork for those interested in running for city council will be available starting July 29th in the city clerk's office.
Okay, great. Would there be a motion for executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056C to discuss real estate? So moved.
So moved.
Seconded by, it's moved by Councilor Willett. Geez, is it that late, guys?
Second.
It's seconded by Councilor Green. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight.